Welcome to the Octopod. I'm Kyle Davis, head of the Office of the CTO. Join us as we dive into the latest technologies and trends shaping business. Whether you're a tech enthusiast, a business leader, or just looking to stay ahead in the digital age, this podcast is for you. Let's unlock opportunities with technology together. Let's jump in.
Welcome back, everyone, to Hybrid Trends podcast series. This time I'm joined by Paige from Verkada, and we're continuing our topic of smart solutions for retail security. Paige, just want to introduce yourself to everyone again?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. So I'm Paige Dougherty, and I'm one of the enterprise account executives for Verkada, and I work with organisations in the north of the UK to basically implement hybrid cloud physical security.
Excellent, thank you. So we've been talking about, smart solutions for retail security. This is part 3 now. So we touched on loss prevention, shoplifting, logistics, etc. in the first episode. In the second one, we touched on what are all the great use cases that the data from a platform like Verkada's can enable the rest of the business to do outside of IT, outside of loss prevention. And now we're going to get into possibly the most challenging part of any of these conversations, which is how do we help an organisation actually build the business case? Because it's an investment at the end of the day, and it isn't always evident on the surface as what the value of that's going to be, and how you then prove that value to the business to roll out a POC maybe from one store to all stores or across the organisation. So that's the topic for this session. And I guess, Paige, what are the areas that are being combined to help customers build that business case?
There's probably one area that springs to mind, and is kind of the elephant in the room with the majority of retailers and organisations that we speak with. And it sounds really, really simple and straightforward, but it is the man hours and the time spent actually retrieving footage when it comes to CCTV or investigating incidents. And I think people have their heads in the sand a little bit when it comes to this. They're almost ignoring the workforce and the man hours that it's taken just to maybe go and investigate one incident. And I think that then has a knock-on effect that a lot of incidents don't actually get investigated off the back of this.
Okay, so bringing automation, bringing the correlation that the platform has, etc., can enable people to actually investigate in a timely manner for less costs. There's a saving there, but also what is the impact of them uninvestigated incidents, and if you could investigate them, what would that value have been?
Yeah, exactly.
Business. That makes sense?
Yeah, it's a two-pronged approach, right? So it's missed incidents, so we don't even have probably numbers attached to that because they haven't been investigated. We don't actually understand the full depth of it. But that time spent, if, for example, an individual is spending even an hour a day, it equates to 5 hours a week, times that over a month and a year. If you broke that down in terms of salary spent, right, and we attach an actual number to that, when we're looking at large enterprise businesses, so national businesses or global businesses, it is absolutely astronomical, the money attached to these man hours spent searching for footage. And if that is something we can automate, that resource can be deployed elsewhere.
No, it makes sense. And I guess also how you can share that information with law enforcement, with third parties, it becomes a lot easier from a centralised platform than, having to run into a room with a USB stick and download stuff and send it somewhere and all of it. And which, again, probably leads to it not being done in a timely fashion and therefore maybe miscatching, the perpetrator at the end of the day.
Absolutely. There's a few issues with that. The one I always sort of have the conversations around is it's not very safe. You're exposing yourself massively, because if you're downloading something, you're putting it on a memory stick, or you're putting it on I just still CDs, DVDs. I've seen some really real antiques going around. When that's taking place, there's always that room for exposure. So potentially, has that footage been tampered with? There's always that flag that can be raised. Young's pubs, who we work really closely with, the Met Police actually complimented them because they're using Verkada at the minute, and the time in which the police request the footage and they're able to share that, it's like less than an hour, it's minutes in terms of being able to do that, because it's instant and it's straight from the platform, right? Because it's cloud. So they're not going into a dusty back room on site. They're jumping on a laptop remotely. You could do it from Barbados or wherever you are if you really wanted to.
Sends a sharing link, they can access that, you can time bound it.
Yeah,
still
exactly.
All of your data at that same point. So that makes sense. And I guess typically this has been seen as a very reactive and possibly expensive area of the market. And I think the previous conversation we had around all the data benefits that the platform brings on top of the direct loss prevention side of it is where a lot of the real value is going to get extracted, and helping bring together budgets from multiple parts of the business, so we can support store design, we can support traffic management, we can support access control, we can support marketing and IT and the security team. Certainly that's a lot of bits of budget that can come together, and a big consolidation of technology and tooling as well, which is top of mind for most organisations these days.
Absolutely. And that's what we'll set out to do when we engage with a retailer or an organisation. So all of those stakeholders you've mentioned, typically for physical security, they wouldn't give it face time. It wouldn't be something they'd indulge in conversations with. And we do need ultimately the buy-in from the retailer that they want to make this proactive change and they want to really find the ROI. So it's something that benefits the business and also saves money. So if we can have those conversations with those stakeholders and just understand what do they care about, what data would matter to them, what can they not see today at store level that they would like to be able to see, and from those conversations, what we then look to do is say, right, let's build out a really powerful proof of concept. And we do this for free because for us, it's also feedback on the platform, right? So if you're a nationwide retailer and you POC our product and you come back and you say, it's missing this is the reason that it's not really working, that's great for us. That's what we'll go off and we'll work on. So it's something we work really closely on. And we've actually had a retailer that we ran a POC with in the distribution space. And it was something I mentioned on the previous podcast about how they were having a lot of calls come in to their 300 customer service agents. And it was basically claims of faulty, missing products, ultimately. And this was anything sub £100, they were just writing it off. And this was happening more than once an hour. So get our calculators out. We can work out what that looks like. And we ran a POC, didn't totally eradicate the issue because you are going to get the instances where people will and won't back down, but it's substantial. There's been a substantial saving there, and that was just a few packing desks that we uncovered that, which is then a very, very easy business case to say, we're going to save you £100 an hour minimum. Let's roll this out larger scale.
Yeah, that would make sense. And I guess the other thing to think about is the hidden costs of maintaining all them disparate existing systems when they're on-prem CCTV systems, centralised, decentralised door access systems, all sorts of other monitoring systems that could be, even within the same store, you can have 3 different systems and you'd have 10 or more across an entire organisation. There's a hidden cost in procurement of them solutions, of maintaining them, updating them, patching them. There's the security risk that if you don't maintain them, they get hacked or act as a backdoor into your wider stock management system or something like that. And all of these things have to be considered when you're building the business case, not just the direct loss prevention side of it.
Absolutely. And I think this is where we start talking about future-proofing. And a lot of organisations are guilty of almost just treading water. So they're just being reactive. They're almost waiting for something to pop up and they fix it. And then that's an expense. And that can happen every day, more than once a day when you're looking at larger scale organisations. So when I say future-proofing, I mean, let's not be chasing our tail with these things. We've got 100 stores. We replaced 10 of them this year. In 5 years' time, we go replace another 10. But what's happened at the first time we replaced, they're now outdated. They don't have the technology. They don't have the analytics that are now available on the market. And that's the benefit with a hybrid cloud solution, because we're able to push out firmware updates automatically. So that means that in 10 years' time, you've got actually more features than you had when you initially bought, but the camera you buy today is the same technology as the camera that you bought 10 years ago.
So once you've got that physical deployment, it's just about the software subscription effectively, and then you're getting that incremental value all the time. And I guess as we can't get through any podcast without mentioning AI these days, but I mean, as AI increases its value as well, then features, you're going to keep adding them to the platform. So we're going to get a better recognition, better wayfinding, and at the end of the day, drive even better decisions for all departments of the business.
Yeah. That's what I say to my customers. Every few months it's like Christmas, because they just wake up, they've had an update and they've got a shiny new AI feature, and it's getting more and more intelligent. It's a lot to keep up with, for me personally as well, keeping up with what's available within the platform, because the rate that AI is evolving, we are releasing new features really, really often. But from a consumer standpoint, you might purchase today and there could be a department within the organisation that this doesn't touch. But in 3 months' time, there's a new feature release and all of a sudden that department are now seeing an ROI as well. So whatever that TCO looks like at the point of purchase, that is only ever going to get better.
Yeah, and I think that's important because if you reduce the cost of something on day one, you've made that saving, but how do you then make some more savings or some more benefits in year 2, 3, 4, 5?
Okay.
But if we get that incremental feature benefit, then you're going to get incremental value from that in benefit as well over time. So that makes sense from that side of it. So you mentioned sort of proof of concept and ROI cases. Is this something you do as in partnership with our retail teams to actually, help people build these cases out in detail?
Exactly that. And we have to do this because it's very new for a lot of retailers and a lot of organisations. It's not typically what they're using today. And with new sometimes comes fear. People think, is it really? It looks great when I'm seeing it live in action on a demonstration, but what is that going to look like in my environment? Are my team going to be capable of deploying this and utilising it? What that POC tends to reveal is that it's actually a lot easier to deploy. And the second the team touch it, they don't want to give it up. Luckily for us. So that, for us, again, it builds those internal stakeholders, because if you've got that POC in there and people are using it and they're getting benefit and they're getting ROI out of it, they don't want to give it up. So there's your business case there. You then have got a lot of internal parties and champions on your side to help push this as a business case.
No, that makes sense. And do you find that this is something that organisations are making ad hoc cases for, or are they having to wait for budget cycles or replacement and end of life of existing kit? Where do you find that sweet spot of when someone should start thinking about it?
It's very varied. It's different with every customer. So it depends on where we're pulling the ROIs from, because we look at some customers and we look at what they're spending in maintenance and reactive costs to maintain a system that might only be 3-4 years old, but ultimately they're spending a lot of money to keep it standing. And when we build a TCO and we say, look, even if you were to rip and replace today and spread that cost and do something creative with CDW, that actually works out more cost effective than just maintaining the system you've got. Some customers we speak with, it will be that a system's end of life, and they tend to be more open, more explorative, but we also then need to move fast if their system's end of life, which is thankfully something we've been able to do. And then we also have the customers, like the customer I mentioned previously in the distribution space. We did consider physical security, and we were looking at it. We were almost looking at budgets and waiting for budgets to be released when we found that ROI in the distribution space, and all of a sudden that didn't matter because the ROI was so big it paid for itself. Didn't need budget. Yeah.
So I guess it's that iterative and consultative approach to work with the retailer, understand their business in enough detail to then be able to propose where the right POC is, and it's in all of our interest to make sure that POC's successful, because that's going to be the catalyst for a larger rollout potentially. Cool. Well, it sounds like what we're saying is we need to band together all of the benefits from a loss prevention in store and in the supply chain. Consider the benefits from an internal fraud perspective as well. Think about time and cost savings around staff, contractors, etc. And then blend into that all of the additional data that you get from having this platform that can enable all the other departments within the business, and actually bring all that together to understand why the investment will be transformative for the retailer at the end of the day.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like it's probably an IT-led conversation because it'll get seen as technology. Yeah. But it's not really it's not solving an IT problem at the end of the day. It's solving problems for all the different heads of departments across the organization. So it's almost like a CIO level, board level, or exec leadership level conversation needs to be had so that everyone can throw their use cases in the ring and generate the justification at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool, excellent. Well, there you go, everyone. We can help with loss prevention. We can generate bucket loads of data to help you make fantastic decisions. And we've got a team of people between our retail experts here at CDW and the retail experts at Verkada who can help you build that business case, define the ROI, run the POCs so that you can actually get the investment. And that just sounds like why wouldn't we want to continue the conversation, really? And I think that's where then the webinar will come in. So if you're interested in any of the things we've been talking about here, please join us in March. We'll be digging into these topics in some more detail. We'll have some live customer examples and some live demos of the platform. So you can actually see this in action and see the reality of it, and also ask any questions you want of the team. So please do join us on the day. And with that, we'll sign off. So thanks for listening. I've been Rob Sims, Chief Technologist for CDW.
And I've been Paige Dougherty, Enterprise Account Executive at Verkada.
Thanks, everyone. Speak to you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Be sure to check out the back catalogue for more great insights. Don't forget to subscribe via your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. And if you have a topic you want us to cover, feel free to reach out. Catch you next time.